All right, Johnny Kane here. And the real reason why the Cowboys lost Super Bowl XIII. Now, this would have been 1978, not necessarily in everybody's wheelhouse in terms of their viewing of football at that time, in terms of actually even being alive at that time. The 1978 Super Bowl XIII, featuring the Dallas Cowboys, the defending NFL champions, versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, who had won two of the previous four Super Bowls, including a 1975 Super Bowl X victory over the Dallas Cowboys. Now, most people will tell you that the reason the Cowboys lost Super Bowl XIII was because Jackie Smith dropped a pass in the end zone that he should have caught for a touchdown. Would have made the score 21-21 as opposed to 21-17. That is not the case. It is not. Did that hurt? Certainly it hurt. Oh my God, there's no doubt it hurt. It was a killer. But philosophically, a decision was made in the early going of that game that really, as Sipowicz from NYPD Blue would say, boggles the mind. So I want to go back to that Super Bowl that I mentioned earlier, the 1975 season Super Bowl X, the Super Bowl in which Black Sunday was filmed, the movie, and footage from that Super Bowl was used in Miami, Florida. The defending champion, Pittsburgh Steelers, against what at the time was the upstart Dallas Cowboys, who had won their way into the playoffs via the wild card. It was unexpected because for the first time in 19 seasons, the previous season before, 1974, and back then they only played 14 games, the Cowboys went 8-6 and missed the playoffs, but had a superb draft class that year. And they combined it with some of the veterans that they already had to put together the team that went to the 1975 Super Bowl against the defending champion Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, the Steelers won that game 21-17. They were clearly the better team. A great game. And the first football game that I ever remember in my life, even seeing a part of it and still not knowing what it was, as I was, 6 years old at the time. And when you go back and look at that game, you see that the reason that the Cowboys lost that game is they had no running game whatsoever. Preston Pearson and Robert Newhouse were complementary type of runners. They had previously lost a few years before to Dwayne Thomas's and then later the Calvin Hills of the world. Okay, Grant Hill's father, who was a very good running back out of Yale, I believe. I know it was an Ivy League school. And they had no running game. So they lose to the Steelers 21-17 in that Super Bowl. But hopes are high because they have this super young team with all these cats that they drafted. Okay, the Ed Joneses and just on and on and on. All these cats that they drafted, the Thomas Hendersons, the Bob Brunigs, all these guys that they drafted, they came in and contributed immediately, all right? Made a pretty good team even better. And, of course, the quarterback was Roger Staubach. So they lose in 75, the Cowboys do, in the Super Bowl to Pittsburgh because they have zero run game. None. Now, as an aside, the Cowboys did a real good job shutting down Pittsburgh's run game in that game. But the Cowboys' ineptitude on offense was attributed to the lack of any kind of run game. And yes, Franco and Rocky were better than anybody the Cowboys had in their backfield, Preston and Newhouse notwithstanding. So 1976 comes along. They are the defending conference champions, right? The defending NFC conference champions. They lose in the first round of the Rams, 14-12. Why? Because they have zero run game. Zero run game. They have no run game. It's just non-existent in terms of what you need and needed back then in terms of a down-in, down-out running game. Didn't have it. One of the reasons Pittsburgh was very, very good. They did have a down-in, down-out running game. So the Cowboys say, after these two failures, losing in the Super Bowl and then losing in the first round as defending conference champions, boy, we got Staubach, we got Pearson, we got Billy Joe Dupree, we got Rayfield Wright, Herb Scott, Pat Donovan, John Fitzgerald. Defensively, we got Brunig and Thomas Henderson and Randy White and Ed Jones and Harvey Martin and Harris and Waters. And we're transitioning Barnes in and, Randy Hughes. We're looking really good. We got a good return game. We got Butch Johnson in the return game. We're looking really, really good. We need a running back. That's how we're going to get a championship. We're going to get a running back. So what do? They reach out to Seattle, who has the second pick in the draft, as Tampa Bay opts to go with Ricky Bell, running back out of USC, which you see how highly valued running backs were at the time. The Cowboys give up multiple picks and even a few players to the Seahawks to jump up to 2 as before the time of social media. Okay, this was before the time of social media when, you relied on print media, okay, and television and radio media. And radio media in regards to sports was incredibly limited. It was reporting of scores, and that was it. And TV media was primarily the same, except when you got into direct coverage by the networks of the NFL, i.e. CBS of the NFC package, which that's the package they had at the time. Very little extra, so to speak. But the NFL today did these extra stories that were above and beyond X's and O's of football, talked to the players, met the players, got to meet the real players. Well, before all the social media stuff, Anthony Dorsett, out Quippa, Pennsylvania, just outside of Pittsburgh, Heisman Trophy winner, national champion, University of Pittsburgh, running back, and a phenom, immediately says, I'm not going to Seattle. So just, y'all can forget it. I'm not coming. It's just not going to happen. So do what you want, but I'm not going to Seattle. He had his reasons. One could say, playing behind the Seattle offensive line at the time, that he knew he would get killed. And he came out and said, and I'm not saying that's what he said, but he did come out and say, I'm not going to Seattle. Dallas needs a running back. They give up several picks and players to trade up and select Anthony Dorsett, University of Pittsburgh, who later became known as Tony Dorsett here in the South. And the rest is history. Or it's a very interesting history that could have been a lot different. 1977, Tony Dorsett is a rookie for the Cowboys. They win the Super Bowl. He does not start till Game 6, but his impact is palpable. A 77-yard run for a touchdown, an 84-yard run for a touchdown. Okay, it's tremendous. He gets to 1,000 yards in only 8 games as a starter, which is just fantastic. It's brilliant. He's everything they thought they would be, that he would be, and they win the Super Bowl. He scores a touchdown in the Super Bowl. But at that point, it really didn't even matter what he does in the Super Bowl. His running ability was something to key on, which got them to the Super Bowl. Great. Now, 1978, the Cowboys run into Pittsburgh. This is Ali Frazier. Okay. This is the heavyweight fight. The Steelers, champions in 74, champions in 75, over these Cowboys. The Cowboys, champions in 77, and here we are at 78. The Raiders, of course, being the interloper in 76, when they soundly defeated the Minnesota Vikings 32-14. We arrive at this game, and this is a true battle of heavyweights. I actually, for a long time, until it just completely disintegrated, had the program from Super Bowl XIII. It's the most beautiful NFL magazine I've ever read. It's a recap of the entire NFL season, team by team. Then it takes you through all of these things leading up to the Super Bowl. It's incredible. Do I miss it because I can't now sell it for money? No. I would just love to have it for the information contained therein, so to speak. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic piece of literature that took you through the whole season. So the Cowboys, champions of the NFC, Steelers, champions of the AFC. What haunted the Cowboys in Super Bowl X in 1975 was the lack of a running game. They lacked a consistent run game of any kind, okay? Of any kind, right? They solve that problem. They go draft Anthony Dorsett, Tony Dorsett, Tony D, touchdown Tony. They win the Super Bowl his rookie year. They are the defending champs his second year. Here come the Steelers. And I still will say that the Steelers had the best team. They were better than the Cowboys. I hated it being a Cowboy fan because I always felt like we couldn't beat them. But let me tell you this. We could have beaten them on that day. Could have beaten them on that day because I did not think we were better than the Steelers. It just, I always hated for us to play them because they won. I mean, they won a couple of times in the regular. They won in the regular season in 77, won in the regular season in 79, stopped the opening day streak in 1983. I mean, they just owned the Cowboys. Owned them, including the 2 Super Bowl wins. But on that day, early 1979, Super Bowl XIII, the Super Bowl for the 1978 season, I was in the 4th grade at the time. The Cowboys were in position prior to that game starting based on what they had done to shore up a problem, entered into the game with that solution to the problem, and the solution was working early on with great success, and they got away from it. The first play that they got away from it was a disaster. It was an absolute disaster. Let's take you back. The Cowboys are handing the ball to Dorsett early in the game. He's ripping off 16, 9, 12. He's consistently shredding them. They have no answer for him. They're moving the ball down the field based on his efforts. Boom, boom, boom. 3 runs. He takes some 30-plus yards. Pittsburgh doesn't have an answer for this guy. It's early in the game. 1st and 10, Pittsburgh 40. And Cowboys run a flea flicker. A end around, other end around, toss back to the quarterback, running back, receiver, quarterback. A series of exchanges on this trick play. And fumble. Pittsburgh gets it. And from that point on, for whatever reason, you would have thought that one play, and again, I'm second guessing Tom Landry. I understand that. His corpse is a better coach than I'll ever be. He's forgotten more about football than I'll ever know. I get that. I do. I really do. I understand that. But as opposed to making a decided commitment to run Tony Dorsett to answer that won you the Super Bowl the previous year to an already loaded football team, the final piece, to not go with him. And if it was because of what I knew from the time that Dorsett got there, well, Coach Landry has Tony Dorsett on a pitch count. Well, he's 5'10", he's 185, not the biggest guy in the world. We're going to limit his carries. He's not going to be Walter Payton. He's not going to be Earl Campbell. We're going to limit his carries. It's going to be a 15 to 20 thing a game. Okay? When he himself is begging for the ball more, give it to me so I can get going. All right, fine. You won a Super Bowl. You're in another Super Bowl. You don't have any more games after this. There's no more football games after this. It's the end of the season. You've given it to Dorsett a couple times, 3 times on a drive. He's taking you down the field. He picked up 50 yards for you, 40 yards for you in 3 runs. A chunk play in 3 runs. Okay. They can't do nothing with him. Nothing. They can't deal with him. He's running wide of Ham, past Lambert. It's ridiculous. And this was the solution to your problem that you gave up all the draft picks for and you moved up for, and you went and got against a team that showed you, as well as the 76 season, when the Rams showed you that you couldn't run it, Pittsburgh first showed you can't run it. We're going to beat you in the Super Bowl because of it. And now you have this piece that you got for this purpose, and we're on a pitch count. I can forgive the flea flicker, okay? I can forgive that. After the great success of Dorsett running, y'all got to excuse my hair. I focus too much on it, and it looks like shit right now. I focus too much on it. Let's get a visor. Boom! But you went and got this guy to handle this. And it proved to be a great move. You won a Super Bowl. He ripped off 2 of the longest runs in the history of your franchise as a rookie. 84 and 77. 84 against the Eagles, 77 against the Cardinals. Boom, gone. In ways that you didn't think could happen. That's right. The 84-yard run against the Eagles was a comeback run that you told Anthony in practice would never happen. That'll never happen. Dorsett just will never break that way. And it did. 84, fuck off. You're right. You were right in this. You were right. You were right to go get Anthony Dorsett from out of Cooper, Pennsylvania, from Pittsburgh. A Pittsburgh boy, a Pittsburgh guy. They're ballers. They can play in Pittsburgh, just like Dallas, just like Texas. You went and got him. to solve your problem in the Super Bowl against Pittsburgh. He's playing against Pittsburgh in the Super Bowl, the last game of the season. If you had said, you know what, Tony, we're going to put it on your shoulders, he would have said, it's about fucking time against his hometown. Look, Steelers were the better team. They had a better personnel. No, obviously did a better job of coaching. They had the better team. I feared and respected them. There's no doubt about that. They certainly had a better team in 75, and apparently they had a better team in 78. And like I said, they beat them in 77 in the regular season, beat them in 79 in the regular season, spoiled their home opener streak in 83. They just gave the Cowboys fucking fits for that stretch. Cowboys couldn't do anything with them. But on that day, you have a hot Pittsburgher, a smoking hot Pittsburgher in Tony Dorsett, number 33, out of Quipper, Pennsylvania, Heisman Trophy, national champion, defending Super Bowl champion, defending Rookie of the Year, running back. You have him on your team. He's going against his hometown team. This was the problem that you had at 76 and try to beat them and compete with them. Nobody, either nobody in the Cowboys organization either thought or maybe they were too scared to tell Coach Landry, man, we're really overthinking this. Running the ball is a problem. We got a guy. He's from Pittsburgh. We're playing Pittsburgh. I'm going to guess he's pretty motivated. It hurts. That one hurts. And I didn't even know it at the time. I didn't know enough about football at that time. I was in the, fourth fucking grade. But that one hurts. As I started to know more about sports, there were others that hurt. And we'll touch on those in other videos. The 1983 Houston Cougars losing the NCAA title to the North Carolina State Wolfpack, as well as the 2011 Texas Rangers losing the World Series to the St. Louis Cardinals. Each of which of these happenings could have been prevented with proper adjustments easily. JCT, hope y'all enjoy. Thank y'all for coming out. Be safe, drive safe, and we'll be back at you with some more good shit soon, I promise.